Return to serve, in particular now the grip. For the beginner to the intermediate player, I found it's really advantageous to start with your forehand grip because most returns will be on your forehand side. How do we find that forehand grip again? We start with the racket in our belly button, the hand comes down, we tilt the racket just a smidgen, and we're holding the racket like this. This is called a semi-western grip. We're able to push on the rim of the wheel to get traction, and with the semi-western grip, I can hit a low ball, a medium ball, or the high ball, all from one position. Now from there, if I see it going to my backhand, I immediately make a little grip change, or I keep my grip where it is, and I can do a reverse backhand. Some players, more advanced players, or players that use extreme grips, like Western grips, or full extreme reverse, they might start with a neutral grip. That's right in between, and the side of the racket is pushing on the push rim from the side, rather than from the top. Now from the side you could push, ball goes to your forehand, you switch grips right then, reverse, or you switch grips to the backhand. Again, if you're starting off as a beginner, intermediate player, I suggest one grip. You could push on the push rim, you could hit low, medium, or high balls, and a subtle little grip change, you can return on your backhand. Or as I said, if you've learned the game after your injury, you might prefer no grip change and just do a reverse. The first thing I do is I start several feet behind the baseline. I'm watching the ball in Alan's hand. Why don't you go ahead and raise it? As I see that ball going up, I push forward. I hit the return, and before I even know it's a good return or not, I come back. So let me demonstrate that without the ball. I hit my return, I make an outside turn, I'm coming back before I even know my return is in the court or not. I have to presume my return is good and recover quickly. So I have my grip, he tosses, I push. It's a forehand, I have to get out of the way and coming back. Now that was a little unique because when I returned that ball, I ran around my backhand, figure of speech, I moved around my backhand. And so from here, I needed to make an outside turn. So again, my grip, about 5, 6 feet behind, watching the ball in his hand, I go forward, I hit, make my outside turn, and push back because I know most of my returns as a beginner to intermediate are not offensive. I need to get back here so I could take advantage of the 2 bounce rule, or I have more time to react. So let's do it one more time. Watching the ball in his hands, push forward, do a tweener, and get way back here. A tweener is where you hit the ball between the first and second bounce. It's also called a half-volley.
So my starting position, I'm probably 6 to 8 feet behind the baseline. And then as the server tosses the ball, I move forward, making sure to keep my head still during the hit, because it is a common misconception and a common problem for the return of serve that you pull off the return. Because especially if you're being pulled out wide and you hit, you think, oh my gosh, I have to get back to the middle. And so players rush the return. They rush the return and don't hit the ball on balance. So you want to hit and then hustle back to the middle of the court. Stay with it and then recover. Now I used to practice return of serve 2 different ways. I would come in and practice keeping my head still during the return. So I was hitting the ball on balance. And then after that, I would practice the recovery. And for me, I found it was a key that if I did those 2 things together perfectly, then I would have a good return of serve. Stay with it and then recover. Sometimes it would be that I would hit an aggressive return and see that I had the server in trouble, and I might do an inside turn and recover closer to the baseline. So I would be in a really strong position for the next shot. But if I was pulled out wide and hit a weak return, then I would reverse mobility to give myself a better chance to stay in the point. So it was really about understanding if you're in trouble in the point and where to recover after that. And that's a big thing.
That's very important. Very important. Let's do a few of those right now. So you could demonstrate when you recover deep and when you don't. So David hit a pretty offensive return. He stayed near the baseline. He hits a return that isn't as offensive. He's already back and even going further back. And one of the reasons why he's back as well is he's allowed to hit on 2 bounces. Whereas in able-bodied tennis, you have to hit on 1 bounce or no bounces.
So for me, I had to make split-second decisions. If the server pulls me wide, I'm way off the court. So the percentage play for me is back cross court. So if I was pulled out wide by the server, I would try and get it back across court, or at least a deep position so I could stay in the point. Outside turn, trying to recover to stay in the point. So there, I made a nice return. And so you might have seen that my position was here. I didn't recover, bang, and do this. That's important to recognize if you have the server in trouble. That's the difference.
Right. David came back. He didn't have the server in trouble. He's way back here.